Hello and welcome movie lovers. Hope you're doing well. In this video, we have brought for you. So, let's roll in.
Oppenheimer is a powerful biographical movie that tells the story of Julius Robert Oppenheimer, the brilliant scientist who led the creation of the world's first atomic bomb. Directed by Christopher Nolan, this 3-hour film is intense, complex, and deeply layered, similar in style to Nolan's earlier masterpieces like Inception and Interstellar. Instead of just giving a basic overview, let's dive into the story in detail. The story unfolds across 3 timelines: the past, the present, and a glimpse of the future. Most of the movie focuses on Oppenheimer's past and present, while the future appears briefly near the end. The present-day timeline begins in June 1954, where we see Dr. Oppenheimer being investigated by the Atomic Energy Commission. They are debating whether he should keep his security clearance in the U.S. government due to his past political beliefs and connections. At the same time, Lewis Strauss, a powerful figure in American politics, is facing a Senate hearing to determine whether he should be appointed as Commerce Secretary. The movie takes us back in time to Oppenheimer's early days as a student. We see that he's deeply obsessed with physics and the universe, even while still in college. In one lab scene, he accidentally breaks a piece of equipment, which angers his teacher. The teacher doubts whether Oppenheimer is serious about his studies. To make matters worse, Oppenheimer secretly poisons an apple and leaves it on the teacher's desk out of frustration. But before anything tragic happens, he changes his mind and quickly removes the poisoned apple from Niels Bohr's hand, a fellow scientist. Bohr sees Oppenheimer's passion for physics and advises him to leave experimental work and focus on theoretical physics. He even recommends that Oppenheimer study in Germany under the famous physicist Max Born. Oppenheimer takes this advice and travels to Europe. On the train to Germany, he meets an American scientist. Both are heading to attend a lecture by Werner Heisenberg, a pioneer of quantum physics. After the lecture, Heisenberg invites Oppenheimer to join his research team. However, Oppenheimer declines, saying he wants to return to the U.S. and promote quantum physics, even though it's not taken seriously there. Back in America, Oppenheimer begins teaching quantum mechanics. At first, only one student shows up, but over time, more and more students start attending. Slowly, a movement begins. Oppenheimer not only teaches physics, he also shares political views that hint at support for communism. His ideas raise eyebrows, especially during a time when communism is seen as a threat in America. While Oppenheimer was passionate about science, he often got pulled into political ideas, especially communism. He believed in equality and freedom, but some people thought he had a hidden agenda. When his college warned him to keep politics out of academics, he agreed not to bring it to campus, but said he had every right to express his views outside. Soon after, Oppenheimer attended a party hosted by his landlord, where most of the guests were communists. He went with his younger brother, who fully supported the Communist Party. Oppenheimer, however, kept his distance. He didn't officially support the party, but didn't oppose it either. He was drawn to the idea of justice and equality, not the politics behind it. At that party, Oppenheimer met Jean Tatlock, a strong-minded woman who shared his political views. They connected instantly and ended up spending the night together. In a quiet moment, Jean picked up a book from Oppenheimer's shelf, the Bhagavad Gita. She handed him a page to read. It said, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." Those words would stay with him forever. Meanwhile, news broke that a German scientist had discovered how to split atoms, a discovery that could lead to nuclear energy and weapons. Oppenheimer was already working on a similar theory, but the German scientist had made the breakthrough first. Inspired and worried, Oppenheimer realized the potential dangers of this science. Then came a major turning point. September 1st, 1939, Hitler invaded Poland. The world was changing fast, and Oppenheimer knew America had to be prepared. At a party, he met a brilliant biologist named Catherine Kitty. Though she was married, she confided in Oppenheimer that she felt stuck as a housewife. Their connection grew quickly. As they talked science and life, they fell in love. Kitty later divorced her husband and married Oppenheimer on November 1st, 1940. Oppenheimer ended his previous relationship, and the two began building a life together. But soon, politics crept back in. His younger brother Frank and other students began organizing protests against the government. Oppenheimer warned them, getting involved in communist activities could endanger their futures and his. The U.S. government was already watching closely. Frank eventually agreed to step back. Time jumped again. A year later, Kitty and Oppenheimer had a baby. But life wasn't as happy as it seemed. Kitty was frustrated, once again feeling trapped in a homemaker role just like in her first marriage. Their baby cried in the background, but Kitty seemed distant, lost in her own thoughts. In 1942, everything changed. U.S. Army General Leslie Groves visited Oppenheimer with a mission. America wanted to develop an atomic bomb before Germany or Russia did. At first, Oppenheimer was hesitant, but the threat was real. He finally agreed to lead what became the Manhattan Project. They chose a remote spot in New Mexico to build a secret research town. Within a week, the Army transformed the empty land into a town called Los Alamos. Scientists from across the country moved in with their families. With everyone living together, it became easier to focus on the massive, world-changing task ahead, building the atom bomb. As the Manhattan Project progressed, more and more theories began to surface. One scientist, Edward Teller, suggested a terrifying possibility. What if the atomic bomb caused an unstoppable chain reaction, one explosion leading to another, burning the entire planet? Oppenheimer was shaken by this idea. To be sure, he went to seek advice from none other than Albert Einstein. After looking at the math, even Einstein admitted that Teller's theory could be true and urged Oppenheimer to investigate it seriously. If the risk was real, the project had to be stopped. Oppenheimer consulted other scientists already working on it. They explained they had tested this scenario on a small scale, and the chain reaction wouldn't happen. Reassured but still cautious, Oppenheimer left Los Alamos for a short while. When General Leslie Groves found out, he was furious. He scolded Oppenheimer, and the pressure caused one scientist to quit the project altogether. Groves warned him, if he dared to reveal anything about the bomb, they would silence him, permanently. Meanwhile, Oppenheimer asked for security clearance, mainly to avoid rumors about his political past. His brother, his ex-girlfriend Jean, and even his current wife Kitty had communist ties. Because of this, people doubted his loyalty. With clearance, he could focus on the project without constant suspicion. Eventually, he was granted it. As they pushed forward, the team faced a huge problem. They couldn't gather enough uranium or plutonium. Even after years of work, they had collected less than 1% of what was needed. Still, they kept pushing forward. In a surprising moment, Oppenheimer secretly visited Jean again. General Groves found out and warned him, if he wanted to stay on this project, he must stay away from her forever. Later, Oppenheimer was devastated to discover a suicide note, possibly Jean's. He believed she might not have taken her life, but was actually murdered because of her communist background. Heartbroken, he pressed on. Meanwhile, Teller started talking about building an even deadlier hydrogen bomb, which would be 1,000 times more powerful than the atomic bomb. While Oppenheimer believed they should stay focused on the atom bomb, he offered Teller 1 hour a week to explore the hydrogen bomb idea. Still frustrated, Teller eventually left Los Alamos. Then came April 30th, 1945. News broke that Hitler had committed suicide. With Germany's surrender close, many scientists questioned whether the bomb was still necessary. They had built it to stop Hitler. But Oppenheimer argued the bomb should still be completed and used to show the world America's unmatched power to prevent future wars. Work resumed quickly. Progress was strong, and the first successful tests began. General Groves demanded that the bomb be ready by July. Right after the movie's halfway point, we see a high-level meeting between General Groves, his senior officers, and the secretary to the U.S. president. They confirmed Germany had surrendered, but Japan was still fighting. The plan was now clear. America would drop the atomic bomb on Japan. They even had a list of 11 Japanese cities being considered as targets. The final decision was made. The atomic bomb would be dropped twice, first on Hiroshima, then on Nagasaki. By July 15th, 1945, the final version of the bomb was ready. But on the test day, a storm rolled in, delaying the detonation. Finally, on July 16th at 5:30 a.m., the first nuclear test took place in New Mexico. The explosion was unlike anything anyone had ever seen. Oppenheimer, watching it unfold, repeated the haunting words from the Bhagavad Gita. "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." The scientists and military celebrated. Their years of work and billions in funding had finally paid off. Within just 2 weeks, 2 more bombs were built. Little Boy and Fat Man. They were dropped on August 6th and August 9th, 1945, killing hundreds of thousands of people in seconds. Surprisingly, the film doesn't show the bombings in Japan directly. No shots of Hiroshima or Nagasaki. But emotionally, the weight of that destruction stays with Oppenheimer. While the public praised him as a hero, the father of the atomic bomb, Oppenheimer was haunted by guilt. In his mind, he imagined the people in Japan burning, melting, dying. He couldn't escape the horror. Everywhere he went, he saw their shadows as if he were walking on corpses. In one scene, Oppenheimer visits the White House, where the president congratulates him and encourages him to keep making atomic weapons. But Oppenheimer refuses. He says he regrets creating the bomb. His hands are stained with the blood of millions. The president coldly replies, "It's not your hands, it's mine. I dropped the bomb." But then, annoyed by Oppenheimer's refusal to continue, he sends him away. Later, Lewis Strauss, the head of the Atomic Energy Commission, approaches Oppenheimer with a new proposal: build a hydrogen bomb, a weapon 1,000 times stronger than the atom bomb. Oppenheimer firmly says no. Strauss and Edward Teller pressure him in multiple meetings, but Oppenheimer stays strong. He warns that making the hydrogen bomb would start a global arms race. If America builds it, other countries will follow, and one day the world might be destroyed. Oppenheimer turns to Albert Einstein for wisdom. But Strauss, feeling disrespected, tries to win Einstein over for support. During their conversation, Einstein shares a deep truth. When you're old and famous, people will use your name for their political gain. That's the price of legacy. As Einstein walks away, Strauss tries to greet him. But Einstein, lost in heavy thoughts about the fate of the world, doesn't respond. Strauss wrongly assumes Einstein is upset with him because of something Oppenheimer said. Feeling rejected and bitter, Strauss decides to get revenge. He accuses Oppenheimer of being a communist and uses his influence to strip Oppenheimer of his security clearance. The scientist who once saved the world is now painted as a traitor. Strauss succeeds. Oppenheimer is isolated, distrusted, and pushed out of the very system he helped build. The film ends with the image of a man who gave the world the most powerful weapon ever and spent the rest of his life wondering if he had also given it the means to end itself. In the end, the biggest twist isn't about the bomb, it's about betrayal. Although Germany and Russia never succeeded in building the atomic bomb before America, the fear of communism and mistrust still lingered. That's why the Atomic Energy Commission launched an investigation into Oppenheimer. The entire movie is shown through flashbacks during this long, intense interrogation. Oppenheimer is questioned again and again. He defends himself, explaining his past, his political associations, and the role he played in creating the atomic bomb. But despite all his efforts, the board denies him security clearance. He isn't officially proven guilty, but he's not proven innocent either. His reputation is ruined. This was a man once praised as a hero, the father of the atomic bomb, now accused of being a threat to national security. But then a turning point comes. A scientist named David Hill, who once worked under Lewis Strauss, the head of the Atomic Energy Commission, steps forward. In a confidential meeting with a U.S. senator, David reveals the truth. He explains that Lewis Strauss had a personal grudge against Oppenheimer. Driven by jealousy and insecurity, Strauss had carefully plotted Oppenheimer's downfall. He manipulated the system to revoke Oppenheimer's clearance, spread false rumors to the FBI, and painted him as a communist sympathizer, just to eliminate him as a rival. David Hill's testimony exposes everything. Strauss's plan wasn't about national security, it was about revenge. This revelation changes everything. Though Oppenheimer never fully clears his name during the hearing, the truth finally comes out in the end. The people who once doubted him begin to realize the injustice he suffered. The movie closes on a somber, reflective note. Oppenheimer gave the world a weapon that changed history, but the same world turned its back on him. His legacy became a complex mix of genius, guilt, and betrayal. In the end, the man who once stood at the center of world-changing power was left standing alone.
Thanks for watching, and hope you have enjoyed this. See you in next amazing video. Till then, take care and best wishes, but don't forget to like and subscribe.